I think the viewers are going to have a very obvious question as this episode of Only Weird Games begins. You can see me, Joshua Brisco. You can see Nate Taylor on the other side of the screen. And then in the middle there is Seth Keysor. And Seth, I'm going to ask you for something here real quick. Could you please show us your pants? Okay, Seth's wearing some blue jeans. Do you have any socks on? If they're bare feet, I don't want to see them. Red and white socks.
They're actually Chiefs socks.
Hey.
That's great. Any other day of the year, I'd say you're dressed to the nines. Can we get someone in there to pinch you real quick? Because I'm not seeing any green. I'm not seeing any holiday spirit. Nate and I have brought the St. Patrick's Day theme to today's show, and the only thing you are right now is, I can tell, green with envy.
I would just say that I don't celebrate your pagan holidays.
He's definitely wearing black, though.
He's definitely not pagan.
I have no idea what today's about to bring. I wonder if any Super Bowl champion has ever benched their left tackle in 2 different games in the same season.
Everywhere.
Lights come on. I need to see it, Omar.
Someone
Show
is
it.
getting snaps.
Show it.
Jazz and I have been married for 17 years. So, Nate, what did you think about...
You heard it here first, folks. Seth Keysor says St. Patrick is pagan. I'll let you figure out the theology of that in the Chief in the North newsletter comments section. But today, we're mostly talking about running backs on Only Weird Games. I've introduced everybody already, and they traded for Justin Fields. Nate, let's cannonball in that direction right now, because I'm genuinely curious. Was that on your radar before it happened? What was your reaction when that came through? Because we've talked about the backup quarterback options a little bit. They clearly needed a backup through training camp in particular. I don't think we ever talked about a trade, and if we had talked about trade candidates, I don't know that I ever would have talked about Justin Fields.
No, I mean, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, that makes sense. That actually makes sense. And we talked about that in the text thread, but no, it wasn't like, it was not something I expected bright and early Monday morning. Now, when you take it piece by piece, again, it makes a lot of sense. I know that there was some report, and I guess, look, I love complex. Don't need them for sports purposes, really, unless it is actually tied to music. But, you know,
I saw the Russell Wilson thing.
The complex report that said, hey, maybe Russell Wilson wants to be in Kansas City. And I said, but did we watch last year?
What if he does?
Yeah, I mean, so that was interesting to be like, well, I guess you could consider Russell Wilson. I guess you can consider Kirk Cousins. I don't know. But because of the Geno Smith trade, because the Jets actively chose to trade for Geno Smith, just want to let you know. Now, they got plenty of cap space and picks in 2027. But as for right now, you actively traded for Geno Smith, which meant that, yes, for the low price, Justin Fields can be yours. And I guess to the Chiefs' benefit, Justin Fields wanted to be in Kansas City. So again, when you put all the pieces together, it makes a lot of sense. He knows he has a chance. Again, it's somewhat slim, I would say, but a chance to be your starter in 2026 in September. But hey, you know, there are, you know, some situations where maybe you would have a more of a legitimate chance to compete for the starting job. But in order to, you know, be around the best, to see the day-to-day process, because I know Gardner Minshew got a ton out of that, even though he didn't play much. And even when he did play, his knee kind of flared up on him. Unfortunately, in Nashville, there's still a lot of benefit to being around Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and the likes. And so when the Jets are willing to eat $8 million because they're already eating 10, sure, come on over, man. Let's do this.
It was a 2027 6th-round pick, and then it's $3 million on the cap to Justin Fields. So, Seth, same question to you. What do you think as the news came down? And then after having some time to think about it, where do you land?
I like it. I didn't see that coming particularly. Nice candle. And I just want to...
I'd like to put it somewhere I don't have to hold it the whole show, but it's St.
Sure.
Patrick. Get it?
I do just want to say that...
Is this blasphemous?
by
Not
claiming
as
that it
blasphemous
was
as what
a
you said in the intro, I guess.
by calling it a pagan holiday, I was just making a silly joke, not making some kind of statement about Catholicism versus Protestant.
what about that Easter bunny though?
Should have
what about
that 4 minutes
him?
ago, because the comment section is not happy with you.
And how do we know the Easter bunny is a he and not a she? What am I doing with this voice?
Not sure.
No, and rabbits don't lay eggs anyway, so I got a lot of biological questions. But
with Justin Fields, they didn't give up much for him. Oh, excuse me.
I'm glad you're excited about it too, man. I'm fired
y'all
up, dog.
didn't give up much.
Right? The thing with Fields that I think is
You're wondering that film review is not coming.
No. Now I'm still in the middle of Tonga's film. I've reviewed like 250 snaps now, so I've got a good idea with him. And I think we're gonna talk about him Thursday. And I've got a slot corner and a safety. I'm gonna learn their names at some point.
I'm gonna learn their names.
Look, I was sick all last week. I had a felony
coach.
jury trial before that. I was just shot, man.
You sound like Andy Reid. Who's that 22 over there?
Yeah.
Huh? McDuffie? All right, I'll learn his name.
Yeah, whoever he is. So the thing
Justin
about
Fields
trading,
brought you to yawns, is what we've learned.
The thing about trading for being 41 brought me to yawns.
You being 41 has also brought me to yawns recently.
The thing about Justin Fields being signed is it's a 1-year flyer. He's really motivated to learn as much as he can, do as much as he can. And I think the assumption is that Mahomes is going to be ready. Maybe. We'll see. But one thing Mr.
Buddy believes Mahomes will definitely be bouncing in week 1.
The thing with Fields is he's a guy that you can bring in who stylistically plays the game very different from Mahomes.
Say.
Yeah, and so that makes it a little bit weird, but like stylistically, pretty much everyone plays the game different from Mahomes. I think what you can do with Justin Fields that you couldn't necessarily do, Andy Reid always says, "Oh, we don't change the offense. The backup's ready," and I'm like, that's dumb. Like that's
no. That's his version of Tom Moore being like, "We don't." Can I? Hey Tucker, can I get a dong?
You don't have to. Curse? You could. We know what the word is.
No. But I want to say it with passion and motivation.
Yeah, I know,
and
but
integrity.
I know what the quote is. I know what the word is, and it's one of the
Tucker,
big ones.
give me a dong if I can say it or not.
I don't. I mean, what would he say if you? Seth, there's a cuss up coming. Seth, we're gonna do. Seth's gonna do a cuss.
Kids. 18 goes down, we're fucked, and we don't practice fucked. That's it. That's the nicer, more Andy saying the nicer version of that. Guys, if 15's not here, why are we practicing?
I've always thought like that was a weird quote, to be honest, because like, what if he's only out for 4 weeks? Like, do you just concede the entire season?
Seth, we are fucked.
That wasn't true with Chad Henne and Matt Moore, though.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about Peyton Manning, though. Peyton Manning.
Yeah, I know, who wasn't as good a quarterback as Patrick Mahomes. So, and so here's what I would say,
which is by the way crazy to say out loud and unassailably true.
Absolutely. So with Fields, what's interesting to me is that you have the ability to bring him in with a kind of pared down offense that's specific to his skill set in terms of he's an awesome running quarterback, hasn't really developed as a passer the way you'd like. He's kind of bounced around. He was with the Jets, pre-Ben Johnson, so Lord only knows what was going on there. And he also, with the Jets, I mean, it's like, okay. It's like, oh, I couldn't succeed with the Jets. Well, that's true of everybody.
You said Jets the first time in the Bears. You know who his offensive coordinator was as a rookie? Or his head coach was as a rookie?
Who?
Matthew Nagy.
Oh,
he's got
man.
the scheme. He's got scheme association.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yep. If anyone says that is
right off
reason,
the tree.
So to me, what you've got is a situation of a guy who does have talent, does have some specific high-end skills that you can build like a pared down offense around that's very different from what you do that might really fit what the offense is actually pretty good at. So let's say you lose Mahomes during the middle of the game. It's like, all right, I hope you're ready to run read option. And Justin Fields will be like, yeah, I'm always ready to run read option. I'm actually really good at it.
Right.
And so, I mean, like a read option offense built around Kenneth Walker and Justin Fields and that offensive line, okay, you can get away with that for a couple of games and really mess with what teams are trying to do. So I like that. I like having a high-end talent as a backup who maybe isn't someone that like, you can necessarily trust for multiple games at a time because of some specific weaknesses that he's got. But like, if you only need him for a half a game or a couple of games, Fields is a great option. A really, really talented one that you can change the offense a great deal and kind of force teams to prepare for you very differently than they were going to. So I like it. And I mean, his college film was good, and it's not like he wasn't an awesome prospect coming out. And I think now we've learned that environment and surroundings and coaching does matter a great deal, because Sam Darnold is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Now, to be fair, are we sure that there's something about Seattle that allows them to just get the best out of quarterbacks? Because Russ Wilson, and I understand this is mostly facetious, I'm not like Russ Wilson looked better there than anywhere else. Geno Smith was a disaster suddenly. Like, he was a disaster before, good in Seattle, then a disaster after. Sam Darnold goes to Seattle. Now, to be fair, he was good with the
awesome.
Vikings.
Yeah, he was awesome with the Vikings.
Yeah, he was awesome with the Vikings until crunch time when he stunk. And then suddenly in the playoffs. Now, to be fair, you know what happened with Seattle? And this is where, we know it's the year of our Lord 2026, and things have changed since 2021. They're like, we're going to run the ball under center, and we're just going to ask you to make 4 or 5 good throws a game, and it's going to be enough. And turns out it was, with a defense that was eating people's faces. So anyway, with Justin Fields, I like the high-end aspect to it. I like the ability to come in and modify the offense and be genuinely tough to defend for a couple of games. So I'm fine with it. If I hear one person say that he's familiar with the system, did they say that? Did they say that?
No, they didn't.
Because
I said it.
Well, yeah, Mr. Brisco said that. No one's gonna, again, I don't know when we're gonna talk to Justin Fields. Hopefully sooner rather than later. Again, this is all pending
it's not official yet.
Physical.
Right.
So,
in case the team changes its mind.
Right. Or in case, hey, we just found that your knee isn't what you told us it was, even though you definitely told us you had knee surgery. But you know what? Yeah, man, we're just gonna have to put you back on a flight.
If they find out that they can sign Tyrod Taylor for like $1.5 million and the trade's off, then we'll have to change our analysis. But look, there are a couple things with Fields that I don't think enough people have mentioned so far. Here's a fun stat for you. He has started as many games in the NFL as Chad Henne had started in the NFL when he became the backup for the Kansas City Chiefs. They both started 53 regular season games before joining the Chiefs. Justin Fields is younger. He's a scrambler, and I don't think that he gets probably enough credit for what the path of his NFL career has been so far. But I think that usefully, he has been the guy in Chicago. He was a guy in Pittsburgh, and he was a New York Jet last year. He's been in different stages of his NFL career enough to kind of know how this works. Like, this is very different than spending a 6th round pick on a rookie in this year's draft to throw in and say, oh, we're going to, shoot for a ceiling, which probably isn't very helpful if he's learning the NFL while also trying to install the offense in training camp that the Chiefs are going to need to do, because Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be out there in St. Joe.
Right. They were never going to invest a ton at quarterback, even with the additional picks after the Trent McDuffie trade, for all the reasons you mentioned, Josh, and for the fact that both Patrick and Andy like having a veteran in the room, again, to be a collaboration, to be a part of the process alongside the quarterback coaches as well. So, I never really saw them, even with Gardner Minshew going to Arizona. We should probably make that a point too. Like,
Gardner more money Minshew, than Justin Fields is making here.
Yes. Gardner Minshew got more on the open market as a free agent than the Jets were willing to, or the Jets were able to get in a trade, because it's a future year pick and they're still eating much of the money because they were always going to eat the money. So it was weird yesterday having the Jets be like, hey, this is actually a win. He's off our books, but he's not off our books. Hey, but we ain't got to spend all $10 million. But hey, we saved $2 million. And he's not on our team anymore, So like the whole like semantics of that. Because now I think this is interesting too. And I don't know if anybody has said this necessarily. We know that Anthony Richardson's on the market. I would have to believe the Chiefs sniffed. And I don't know what Anthony Richardson will go for. We still got to see if he can see the ball, guys, because his orbital bone snapped last year. So his trade market is inconclusive, would be my guess. But hey, this tells you this is a better deal. This guy is not dealing with an orbital bone injury. He's a lot further along in his career. This is probably the easiest move to make now. It helps out the Jets because the Jets need to figure out something to do with Justin Fields because like he not a part of their program. So again, not something we anticipated, but it all makes sense when you consider the only other quarterback who's in a backup ready role to be traded elsewhere is Anthony Richardson, and we don't know when he's going to be able to like see the field and operate an offense. Literally, we don't know when he's going to be able to operate the offense and give it a chance to sort of revive his career from where it is right now. So when you consider all those things, hey, we didn't want to go on free agency. We're not sure what's going to happen with Kirk Cousins. We're not, Gardner Minshew went elsewhere. Great for him. This makes sense if you're trying to just make sure you have someone who can throw the football to Travis Kelce in a month's time. Because quietly, ladies and gentlemen, in a month and a half, they're going to have like legitimately voluntary practices. And they didn't obviously want to just not have a veteran presence there as part of the offseason program.
If I was a team looking for my starter still, I'd rather trade for Anthony Richardson. If I'm in the shoes of the Chiefs right now, I'd rather have Justin Fields because, again, you have to get through the offseason with an NFL quarterback. And look, you can be optimistic about Mahomes. You can have it that he's currently on track to be back for week 1 or whatever. If at any point that progress lags, if at any point his body responds like a normal human knee would and not a Patrick Mahomes knee would, if he comes back in week 5 and they're 0-4 because the winner of the Chris Oladokun and Jake Haener battle played some really crummy football through the first quarter of the season, now you're really bleeped. Like now you're bringing back Patrick Mahomes off an ACL in a big hole and trying to dig out of that to get into a wild card fight or whatever. With Justin Fields, they've made an actual investment to try to set that floor where it is. And I don't know what the other options were that would have, if they brought back Carson Wentz, we'd be done talking about it by now. If they brought in Tyrod Taylor, I think it would have made sense, but the ceiling's not as high, and I don't know what that offense actually looks like.
Yeah.
If you have to play a few games without Mahomes, Justin Fields and Kenneth Walker is an NFL Street 2 backfield coming straight from my heart. Like there is fun football to be played in that version of the Chiefs offense. And like you mentioned earlier, Seth, you can try to do a play style thing, but also if you say, well, we're just going to get a real Mahomesy type to fit back there.
Right.
They don't make those. Those are all first round draft picks and starters, and really aren't that Mahomesy.
Let's give a shout out to Chris Oladokun, who tried his best to fumble the ball, scramble, pick it up across his body. Juju Smith-Schuster, first down.
That's what your scout team Mahomes candidate can do, and you hope Justin Fields can actually help you win some football games because these games are going to matter. If it's the beginning of the season or somewhere in the midst of it, those games matter when you have Mahomes coming back off the ACL. So we've already talked about the backup quarterback a lot. Let's talk about the starting running back after this break.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned to what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe in longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give him an opportunity because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
Can I make
All right,
one quick suggestion? Do we think Justin Fields knows who? Again, near and dear to my heart. This is 90 football, and my soul weeps. Do you think Justin Fields knows who Cordell Stewart is?
I would think so.
Can he get in that film room? Because guys, Cordell Stewart could do it all: running, catching, and receiving. Just saying. What if he was wide receiver 4?
Well, I mean, they probably wouldn't let him run intermediate routes either. So.
Can he run mesh? Can he run mesh is the question.
Well, Cordell Stewart could go deep, kids. And punting. Yes, thank you, Pass Lou. Like, man, Cordell Stewart was a freaking. He was a child. He's near and dear to my heart. Hello, Justin. Welcome to Kansas City. Hope you pass your physical. My name is Eric Bieniemy. All we're gonna do for the next hour is watch Cordell Stewart highlights.
I need more intensity from you if you're gonna be Eric Bieniemy.
And
holding you accountable on your Eric Bieniemy impression.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
You know, when Kenneth Walker got to the podium, when Kenneth Walker got to the podium in Kansas City, he said he talked to Eric Bieniemy and he was an intense guy. And Seth did the Kenneth Walker film review in a tent. Actually, he was camping when he wasn't. That's not true. There is a film review in the North newsletter right now. And just like Kenneth Walker, Seth, you're going to have to show some contact balance throughout this conversation, I can imagine. You're going to be getting hit from all angles. But I need you to stay on your feet. I need you to keep the chains moving. I need you to find the end zone, just like Kenneth Walker. What stood out to you when you really cannonballed into his film?
Run behind Trey Smith all day, every day.
I do appreciate you making really clear that I need to show balance through contact as opposed to bounce. So I tried to take a different approach with reviewing Walker's film than other people have, partly because, again, just last week, I just haven't really been on top of my game lately. And so it took me a little longer to write the review than I would have liked. But so what I did is I reviewed every snap from the playoffs and a couple hundred from the regular season, made sure to get at least 50 in terms of, the passing game, whether it's protection or running routes. Seattle didn't really ask him to do a ton of pass protection because a lot of what they do is under center type stuff. So you got a lot more play action, different stuff like that. So the way that I wanted to do it was everyone is kind of focusing on bringing back explosive plays to the offense, which is, of course, a really, really, really big deal. And that's one of the primary reasons they got him. But I don't think that I don't think that I'd be adding anything to the conversation to note that he's really good at producing explosive plays. He is. Absolutely is. You've heard that. Let me just tell you, reviewing hundreds of snaps, it's absolutely true. He produces big plays at a pretty decent rate. And that's on a team that was running the ball from under center, that was running the ball against a lot more loaded boxes than what the Chiefs face because of the nature of the way they play the game. And so he was able to consistently break off big plays. So you already knew that. And that's a big deal. And we've talked about the benefit of that. Maybe we'll circle back to the end. But I really wanted to look at what does he bring from a snap-by-snap basis? Because I actually reviewed some of Walker's film as a rookie. And I was fine with him as a player, but I didn't actually like him as much as other people did at that time. The reason being is he felt like a boom or bust guy, which is something that he's got a bit of a reputation for still. What I liked watching his film is that he consistently got the most out of what was available. He doesn't have elite vision, but compared to what we saw from Pacheco, he is pretty solid at setting his blockers up and much better than he was earlier in his career. And that's where I think some of his reputation comes from, because we have a tendency, especially when guys play a lot earlier in their career, to assign them certain things. And then it just stays that way, right? He does bounce outside. That is meant to be bounce, by the way, not balance. He does bounce outside a little more quickly than he ought to sometimes, but the vast majority of the time, even running under center, running between the tackles, or running out of shotgun between the tackles, he will look for what's available there. And he'll also, what's a couple of my favorite runs, he'll vary his tempo in his run to give blockers time to develop. There were a couple of one that was either inside zone or duo, and if you tell me that you can always tell the difference, you're a liar. So whatever, or an O-line coach. And even then, I've had 2 different O-line coaches say 2 different things, and I was like, wait.
No, that's duo. That's duo. That's duo all day. We just do it.
No.
We do duo.
Zone. So anyway, a combo block where they double team at first and then climb to the second level, which happens inside zone and duo. He, on a few different times, and even more than a few, he did it consistently enough that you can call it a trait, a habit. He'll hesitate if there's not that initial push, and he'll patter his feet and give it a moment to see if they're able to generate a little more push, to where rather than run straight into the backs of your offensive linemen, you're giving it a minute to clear, right? You're giving it a little bit to develop, to push guys down the field a little bit. And then that allows you to find holes that have opened up. He also does a good job setting up defenders in terms of, if you've got, let's say, a defensive tackle, one of my favorite clips that I did include as an example of this, you got a defensive tackle who's trying to 2-gap. You press one gap to get him to flash his helmet to that side, and then you attack the other gap once he's committed. Yep. And he does that. He definitely showed a significant improvement than the last time I'd watched this film. He's still not Le'Veon Bell. No one is. That's what everyone compares him to. But he's got solid vision overall and the ability to take advantage of the types of run plays that the Chiefs do run a fair amount of inside and outside zone. The difference between him and excuse me, sorry. The difference between him and what the Chiefs had at running back last year is that he's got both the vision and the explosiveness to take advantage of outside zone looks. He can actually hit the edge, which changes the angles that defenses has to take in terms of closing, which then in turn opens up cutback lanes.
Yes.
He's explosive enough to hit that back foot and cut up the field. So I, like, on a snap-by-snap basis, what I appreciated was it was consistently positive if there was anything to gain. There were, a fair number of, 1 yard, 2 yard, whatever. But those were times there was just nothing there. And even in those situations, because he's got a good combination, he's got what I guess you could call like the speed trifecta. That explosive first step, that acceleration, and long speed. So, your first step is your first step, right? That explosion right in and out of cuts, that sort of thing. He can do that really, really well. He also accelerates well. That's your third and fourth step, or, that's the second, third, and fourth step. He's very fast in that. And he's got excellent long speed as well. I think he ran it was like a 4.35 or 4.34 or something like that. He is a legitimate explosive play threat. And people don't always realize it because he's built pretty solid. He's 5'9", 212. He runs well through contact, not elite, but he runs well through it. He can shake tackles a little bit. He's got good lateral agility to where he can shake guys in space, but he can also run through contact to an extent without being slowed down overly much. He's just overall he's a very good running back. He fits snap in and snap out a lot of the traits you're looking for. And I wanted to really focus on those things rather than just looking at the explosiveness. And that's one thing. So like explosiveness, having the speed trifecta, and I know I've kind of taken the ball and run with it for a while here, but these are my ISO moments, so I just take them. And
it took you like 6 weeks to write the story. We ought to give you a full 20 minutes to talk about it.
Oh, come on. My man was sick, okay? It's not the finals, Josh. Give him this flu for once.
That one hurt more than I thought.
Minutes. He was the one counting his minutes.
That's true.
Yeah.
Trying to let him get his shots up.
One thing that something I've stressed repeatedly is that being an explosive runner, being a guy with some vision, being a guy with some contact, some balance through contact, it's about, oh man, he bust out a 30-yard gain, but the ability to turn what would have been a stuff at a goal line to a 3-yard touchdown, That matters. And that's where you combine all those traits. That's where you can have value on a snap-by-snap basis, in addition to the explosive gains and in addition to the way that affects how defenses have to play you. I think defenses will feel a little less comfortable with too high looks. And so it was the way he performs against loaded boxes, and he didn't see, or against non-loaded boxes, more empty boxes. He does a good job because he gets upfield so quickly. He's threatening that second level immediately. And that allows you to, when they've got a light box, you can just get those 4 to 6 yard gains quickly and make teams pay for showing you certain looks. So there's just a lot to like on his film. He doesn't have like an elite level vision that you might get out of guys that are like, a top 3 running back, but his vision is better than advertised. His explosiveness and speed is everything that it's advertised. And he's able to run with a little bit of lean, a little bit of an angle to where he can avoid tacklers. He just has the ability to turn negative plays into, a negative 4 yard play into a stuff at the line, or a stuff at the line into a 2 or 3 yard gain, a 2 or 3 yard gain into a 6 yard gain. Like, those are the differences that he can make. And it's consistent on film. And the interesting thing to me is, and I don't really think there's a clutch gene for running backs, I wouldn't think, but he was part of kind of a duo all season because they got another running back that they love there. But in the playoffs, when he was asked to do the most and really carry the load by himself, he played better than ever. And that's really intriguing to me. So that's a lot of pluses, and I started with all of those.
How about that pass blocking?
Man, if they'd asked him to do it more often, I sure would have more to say about it. It's so much of it was under center play action stuff that it just doesn't. There's just not a lot there to see, especially from shotgun, the way the Chiefs have him do it. He looks really natural as a receiver. He runs routes well. They had him in the slot or at boundary at times. But there's just not a lot of information. He shows some willingness to be physical, and that's a start, but there's just not a lot there.
You ready to pass block your ass off? You better get in that linebacker's keister and block. He's playing the knee. Lock your hips, squeeze your glutes, get up in his chest.
I forgot Eric Bieniemy was here. I'm really sorry, Coach. I gotta be more accountable to remember who's all here. What actually just happened is you guys couldn't see it, but Tucker just disappeared from the site and just texted me. My Wi-Fi just went out. So I was trying to get the ball back out again. Like, oh man, okay. I get the buttons. The show's not gonna have to be infinite, but I am curious, Seth. This is a little bit. I don't want to fully even go into the passing game side of it. You mentioned very little pass pro, and I also don't want to get to Amari DiMercado, who we'll talk about in a little bit because they signed him after our last show. But what about just the fact of what you said a second ago of like, well, it's so much under center and it's so little shotgun pass pro opportunities. How much weight is fair to put behind that in terms of if you are concerned, if you are excited? We talked about the possibility that maybe that's a sign that the Chiefs are going to evolve a little bit to do more things that he did well in Seattle. Also, I think there's just the chance that the Chiefs are going to ask him to function in the version of the Chiefs offense that we've seen these last couple of years. What way would you say you're leaning in terms of where those two schools of thought meet? Is he going to do more Chiefy stuff, or are the Chiefs going to do more of what Walker did in Seattle? And then do you think those skills will translate for whatever amount of time? I'm guessing he'll have more RPOs in Kansas City this year than he had in Seattle last year either way.
Yeah, he had like 14 last year in Seattle. His ability
with Justin Fields.
Yeah. His ability to explode with the ball in his hands, his ability to cut immediately once he gets the ball in his hands, that bodes well for shotgun handoffs and pistol handoffs. That ability to he definitely has his eyes up and he's making reads before he gets the ball. You get more of a head of steam if you do that, being handed off from under center. But he's got the ability to accelerate quickly and to change direction quickly. So the skill set looks fine there. He did have some handoffs from shotgun, and he looks comfortable accelerating out of there. It's just not something that he's done nearly as frequently. So I think they see the traits to do it. My assumption is that it's a little bit of both, in that They're going to ask him to do more of the stuff that they've done, but it's also a sign that, well, we're going to alter our offense. The Bieniemy hire, kind of cleaning out the running back coach room, and then
get them out, get them all out,
and then getting
one of them,
and then getting Walker as opposed to like ETN. I think that is a sign that that's a direction they're looking more towards. Now, I don't think they're ever going to build the whole plane out of it the way like Seattle did, which I can understand that. I mean, that wouldn't make sense when Patrick Mahomes is your quarterback. But I think if you up that stuff by 10%, 15% in your offense, and he's able to do your stuff well too, it can all kind of come together. Like they can run outside zone, inside zone, duo out of shotgun and do it well with that group that they have.
right?
And he has the physical traits to do it. There just is a bit of an extrapolation.
Do you have a theory on that front, Nate? Just in terms of like how serious we all feel about the evolutions of the offense and all of that. Like, is Kenneth Walker a sign, or is he a piece that they're going to make fit into their view?
So my theory is, because of all the changes that have been made, because of the skill set that both DeMarcado and Walker have, it should give whoever the week one opponent is, and we do not know who that is yet, we'll know that in a couple months, it should give them the ability to have real concerns and questions about what we'll see. And that's even with the addition of, will Mahomes be there? Will he not? If he's in the lineup, again, what will they have him do from a physical standpoint? I'm saying this for everybody on the internet so that you guys realize we are ally over here, okay? Only we're games. We watched all 17 of them games last year, okay? The offense almost in a non-combative way has to be different. And he, being Walker, has to be part of that being the difference. In whatever they do from a skill set, whether they are more varied in the run game, whether they have more things that are just honestly connective in the scheme, it cannot be what it was last year. And they should also, and I've said this before, they should be a little bit more creative because you have Kenneth Walker, not because you've just done it a certain way over a certain amount of time with a certain, principles of a scheme, not necessarily the scheme itself, but the actual principles of it all. So if it were up to me, this should be a great ideal session to get you ready for week one. And then you should be experimenting a lot with Justin Fields, honestly, with the hope that you will get a couple of practices with Mahomes, whether preseason or end of training camp, to where you can polish it and sculpt it in a way that is noticeably different. Again, I'm not sure. Well, that's tough to say. And I need to be mindful of that. But I just, of what's in my head, by the way, I have to think that like it cannot be the same because there will be so many different people involved, both coaching staff and personnel on the field.
Seth, any final kind of thoughts on we can spend a little more time if there's anything else, but anything else on Kenneth Walker that we haven't gotten to? He mentioned, that, again, not a lot of past pro experience. You saw him a little bit in the screen game, which is a little bit different also than being like a pass-catching running back. Like, I think that kind of implies catching the ball beyond the line of scrimmage. What did you see in the screen game? Did he ever get asked to go beyond the line of scrimmage? Do you think he can if asked this year?
Yeah, they had him line up occasionally. They had him line up in the slot a few times. They had him line up on the boundary a couple times. And he looked really comfortable running routes, like surprisingly comfortable running routes. And so I'd love to see what they do with that on there. He ran a few speed outs really well. He looked comfortable running a couple of angle routes. He looks comfortable changing direction. All those physical traits are there, and he's not bothered by contact. And so he's really able to do a few things there. I'd be curious to see what he can do that with an expanded role. in terms of screens, Seattle has a pretty good screen game overall. They set it up pretty well.
Yep.
He showed a lot of attention to detail. His intentionality with his spacing was noticeable on screens. The way he would sell an initial block, not get set up too far past the line, stay patient, let the blockers get beyond him, and then just explode into space. Like that stuff all looks really impressive, and it could really bring some juice back into the screen game, because just way too often this last year, and I think there's a reason they kind of moved away from it to an extent. They tried kind of force feed Rashard Smith, but when a player being on the field is a tell, that makes it tough. But like
we had multiple players on the field that could tell the defense what was coming, and even our all-world quarterback couldn't fix it.
Yeah, that's very accurate. That's one reason if he doesn't break the bank, Juwan Jennings kind of makes sense, but whatever.
He ain't breaking the bank. That Baker's already told him he won't be broken.
Right? Is there anything going on there? I was wondering this.
He needs to come to reality, sir.
Okay, well, you should come to reality, Missouri, which is what I call Kansas City.
I mean, he would be someone that you could bring on board.
Hey, I'm gonna tell you this now, young fella. You can wait after the draft, but that money ain't gonna change. All right? Give me a call when you're ready.
And so
this is sounding less like Eric Bieniemy every time you.
Yeah, I don't even know who it sounds like at this point.
We are getting closer to Foghorn Leghorn than Eric
Bieniemy.
Yeah, I'll say. You better hold on to that football, young man.
I would say that the only other thing that I would like to talk about, and this is just briefly because it is kind of one of those things that everyone's focusing on, the Chiefs last year, there were a couple of really, really good stats, and I wrote about this when I did the film review. The Chiefs ranked 9th in yards before contact last year when they handed the ball off. So what that means is they were 9th in the league, so top 10 in the league, but how far a running back went before a defender made contact with them. That's for the people that are like, oh, well, there's nowhere to run. Good. That's a good stat. They ranked after contact 30th in the league.
Yikes.
And so what that tells you, in addition to knowing that they're one of the 2 worst teams in the league at generating 10-plus yard runs for the last couple of years, part of that is their inability to break tackles, their inability to shake loose from contact, their inability to, and part of that stems from the angle you're getting contacted at. We've talked about this before. If you have more explosion, you're able to mess with an angle, you're being hit by a defender who's chasing you rather than squaring up and hitting you straight on. That allows you to fight for extra 2 or 3 yards. That allows you to, maybe break a tackle. It's more of an ankle tackle than anything else. So he could potentially be a huge help with something like that. And it's just worth noting the success rate of the Chiefs offense, like the percentage of time that they gained positive yardage running the ball, was actually pretty high. It was actually higher than what Walker saw last year in Seattle. Their explosive plays were way lower than what Walker saw. So the idea here is that the success rate is a result of a good offensive line and a result of light boxes, right? The idea is you can have that same success rate with his explosive play rate, and now suddenly you've got a really dynamic, really effective run game, even in that smaller sample size. So but
what if they don't know what angles we running at because we're not in shotgun, coach?
Who are you, and why are you?
I actually liked Seth's question better. I wanted you to finish your question.
You asked for accountability, and I'm accounting for the offense.
I'm done talking about Kenneth Walker. So
I'm just literally trying to figure out who that does sound like. And I still haven't found a human being that it reminds me of. So
he reminds me of the dude. Oh man, who's the guy who did the one song in The Punisher? I had a good home, but I left. I had a good home, but I left. Right. I'm gonna look at this while you talk about
Sing it, Lord. Look. I know some people don't understand that down south.
It sounds like Foghorn Tom Waits Bieniemy. That's where
down south. Okay, I know it's called a certain line. I like saying the word Dixie Because it's funny, okay? Some of y'all been reaching out saying it's not Dixie. Damn it, it's Dixie to me, okay?
Now Seth, he is being Nate Taylor with that voice now. So we have actually ascended into a different, out of one character into another. Now he's Nate Taylor of Only Weird Games, is where we're at right now.
This is why they pay me so much
Nate Taylor of
money.
ESPN does not talk like that.
Neither did Nate Taylor of Times Hours. I'm telling you, we switched to video, and Nate,
Broke loose, boys.
We switched to video, and Nate's usage rate went up, and your body fat percentage went down.
well, all it took was 4 years of me staring at my reflection, thinking, "Ew."
I didn't say it like that.
Look, so the mercenary who signed up for another year.
Let's
talk about Amari DiMarcado. Let's talk about Amari DiMarcado. That's okay. It's nice to know when I have Nate's permission to move on to the next topic. Oops, not yet.
Young fella, you ready to run 90 yards down the field and not drop the ball?
Around the Horn's been canceled long enough. Do you think I could ask Reali for the mute button or just
come on,
big desk or something? Can I start giving you guys points? Has it been long enough that it wouldn't be redundant to take an Around the Horn style? I'll tell you what, an Around the Horn style version of this show where I'm also giving myself points and muting myself, I think would be pretty good.
Yeah, I'd enjoy that. You're pretty honest with that sort of thing.
I think so. I think I'm a fair critic of all three of us.
Yeah, I don't know that there might be accountability for my actions, and I'm not sure I'm a fan of that.
Well, then you picked the wrong team to cover. Oh, it's Hulk Hogan. That's what it is. Oh no! It went from Eric Bieniemy to Hulk Hogan. I just realized. I almost said brother, and I was like, oh no! Well, I'm gonna talk about Amari DiMarcado. He's the mercenary. You may remember him last year at the Arizona Cardinals. He has some explosion. He has a real desire, a real interest in pass blocking. Unfortunately, you might remember last year he did not have an interest in holding the football over the last 6 inches of the field required to turn a long run into a touchdown. I will assume that is not what he wants his NFL legacy to be. Jonathan Gannon got in trouble for what he did on the sidelines. I think Eric Bieniemy, certainly Nate's version of Eric Bieniemy, might be put in prison if Amari DiMarcado drops the ball short of the goal line this year. So I'm not worried about that part of his NFL career in Arizona. What are the Chiefs getting here other than what appears to be the third down back in terms of getting this backfield to make sense? I know you haven't done the film review, but Nate's drinking, so I'll go to you first. And what Nate's drinking, I'll leave to the listener because it's an opaque bottle, and my guesses are different now than they would have been before the show. What did you think when that news came down, Seth, that they've added another NFL running back and not just relying on a rookie draft pick or Rashard Smith for that matter, getting a running back that has a real affinity for pass protection?
I think like the affinity for pass protection thing makes you think that they're looking for someone that could be their kind of their third down back, someone to work with Smith in terms of picking up some of the ins and outs of that. It was interesting to me because we'll see. They're not treating him like a guy that they're just going to cut loose immediately, but they didn't really treat Elijah Mitchell that way either. So I mean, who knows? It would appear to me that the plan is those two and Smith, which is probably not the route I would have gone, honestly, simply because when you've got a guy who is so exceptional in short yardage situations that you also trust with pass protection, it's odd to me that you wouldn't bring him back because I think there's a real value there. But Kenneth Walker's good in short yardage too. He's just a different style running back. Yeah. Then people think that he might not be good in short yardage because, he's not as big, but he's not a small runner.
Right. No. Mm-mm.
So my assumption is that they are bringing him in as kind of a third down back, a guy that has said he loves doing pass protection, and that's kind of his thing. That's how he's eked out a long career, or a longish, he's working on for a running back career in the league. And so it appears to me that that's the route they're going to go, is these two and Smith. And I will say, if that's the route that you go in the running back room, incredibly more explosive room than what you had. Like, you will never have a running back on the field that doesn't run like a 4.4-ish 40 or less. That's a big change in what they've been looking at the last few years when they were looking more at like reliability in certain things and knowing the scheme and that sort of stuff. And so that's kind of been an interesting thing to me. It's also in terms of from like 5,000 feet in the air, it's continuing their pattern of filling out the roster with not familiar faces. And they brought back Mike Caliendo for a year, but they let him go test the market first. Then brought him back for something that's less than what you would have been had you tagged him.
Correct.
So it's interesting to me. It seems like a slight shift in how they're trying to fill out the rooms lately. And that's just something that, even beyond the running back position, I think is interesting that they're not just bringing back familiar faces, because that really has been kind of their MO, other than years where they've done like this big shift in approach. Like they've had they had to turn over the entire offensive line, or they had to turn over a bunch of places on defense, that kind of stuff. But they've really done a lot of, we're going to bring back our guys. Yeah. And there's just not as much of that this offseason. And that's encouraging in a lot of ways.
I think for the Kareem Hunt of it all it takes is one phone call. It's one of those relationships where it's like, everybody understands the circumstances. Clearly he was told where the team was going. Same thing for Isaiah Pacheco. And while he was effective, they also understand too that he's only going to get older. And would Kareem Hunt be a viable option post-draft? That's something that you have to consider. If the Chiefs don't take a player at the running back position in the draft, demarcates to me that maybe Brashard Smith might not be long for this traditional running back role.
Oh, interesting.
Can we make you a McCluster, DeAnthony Thomas light? Now, I don't know what that necessarily looks like.
McCole Hardman's role?
Potentially. Hey, we already know he can be a blossoming returner, even though you also brought back Nico Remigio. So, hey, you need two of them back there, just so you know, ladies and gentlemen. But I think if the Chiefs draft a running back, 3rd, 5th, 4th, 6th round, whatever, might be the end of Kareem Hunt's time in Kansas City. And it also might spell that Brashard Smith's role is going to be reshaped. But what this means for DeMarcado is, hey, you are going to get an opportunity to keep the speed at a certain level, regardless of who's on the field. And whoever is on the field for the Chiefs, if it's Walker, if it's DeMarcado, they will be faster. And they will have we would assume, a greater chance for explosive success rate than anybody the Chiefs had on the field that wasn't Brashard Smith. And of course, as we said before, we watched all 17 of them games. They refused to give him the ball as if he wasn't someone who could make an impactful play or two, regardless of how gimmicky they sort of treated him in the middle of the season, which again leads me to sort of think, can we lean more into that gimmicky sort of gadgety play style versus just having him line up from under center and handing him the ball 10 to 12 times in a game as a secondary runner?
Nate, you're in lockstep with a couple of things I wanted to bring up in terms of the future of the room. The one snippy thing I'll say is I wonder what Brashard Smith did wrong in the incredibly limited sample size that he got as a running back last year for them to be so ready to just move on from that. But it seemed like that wasn't necessarily the strategy when they drafted him. Like, what changed from drafting him to through last season?
Well, you have to remember this is a complete. It's still the head coach, but it's a completely different administration. And this administration did not draft.
That's not a completely different administration. That's not.
I understand what you're saying. I understand
what that means, though.
I understand.
Yeah.
We are not tied to him, and for whatever reason,
did Brett Veach get fired?
No.
Did Matt Nagy pick Brashard Smith? Did Todd Pinkston get to choose the last draft pick?
I love this pushback.
It's the same administration. I don't.
Look.
Scapegoat. Scapegoat.
I didn't say that either.
I'm not arguing anything heavily here.
Hey.
Guys, you
Listen.
remember that time Matt Nagy took over the entire draft room and drafted a guy without anyone's permission?
I thought it was weird that he pounded the table so hard for Felix Udike-Uzama, a guy who played on the other side of the football.
Listen to me. Listen to me. I just got here.
Yes, Mr. Hulk.
You called me to fix things, not to solve them.
Look, hey, if you want to say Eric Bieniemy doesn't think he can play running back, I guess that's fine. But that's at least cohesive, right? Like,
wouldn't that be the reverse? Wouldn't it
No,
be?
no,
that he's
no. You're not hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth. I didn't come here. What'd I say?
It couldn't matter less. I would like if the so here's what we've heard about the running back draft class. Nobody likes it. Everybody loves Jeremiah Love, and then you kind of like his teammate, and then everybody else looks at the rest of the draft class and
Boo boo.
Even
though that's not true.
Like, bizarre.
Yeah, we know that's not true. I think there's a running back in Arkansas, Mike Washington Jr.?
Irrelevant.
I like him.
Irrelevant.
He doesn't play for Notre Dame. Get out of my face.
Get him out of here. But like, I mean, it's just like the reputation of this draft class is just that there's not a lot of depth in the middle. There's not like a bunch of flyers here. There will be successful running backs that come out of this draft class, but there's not.
All I'm saying is
behind that
he didn't score a touchdown running the football last year. You came to me to fix things, not to find solutions. And my solution is
I'm going to find out how many carries Brashard Smith took from Patrick Mahomes, and then we're going to judge him on that number.
He need to be running a route free, okay? Now that's why you found a solution in the screen game.
You didn't let him do that either.
Well, it was a modified screen game. You know what I'm saying? But look, I came with fixes, and my fixes are find me better players.
It sounds less like Eric Bieniemy every time you go back to the well. It's starting to jar me. Look, here's what I'd say about the draft, and Nate got there too. But like, if you get through the draft and you go, no, we don't like any of these running backs, any of these positions, any of these pockets in the draft, call Kareem Hunt, and you're definitely going to want to have at least 4 running backs in training camp. And
Correct.
if he comes back then for basically no money, and Brashard Smith is on the depth chart as an OW offensive weapon like Dexter McCluster, then you have a third running back, and it can be that Kareem Hunt not only can be your short yardage guy, but also, if absolutely necessary, it keeps Amari DiMercato from having to be the number 1 guy if Kenneth Walker misses time, and it keeps Brashard Smith from having to be your pass protection back if DiMercato misses any time. So I think a reunion with Hunt post-draft makes sense, and I think letting Brashard Smith be this year's rookie running back again would make sense. It has seemed like the Chiefs might not agree, and the way Nate frames it now, I'm anticipating that he'll be a Jet by Thursday.
Oh, come on. All I'm saying is, and someone made the comment, and I want to.
Sorry, where'd Matt Nagy go? I think he'll be a Giant by Thursday.
Oh, come on. Ron in the comments says 7th rounders or flyers. Expectations were always way too high from fans. I understand that is somewhat true. That it's a 7th round pick with a whole different position, offensive coordinator. What happens with the entire scheme as a whole? As we just said, the scheme needs to change as you have different circumstances with new players, Mahomes, all of that. If they didn't give him the ball last year, what makes me think they're going to give him the ball more this year with better players at his position? So can you beat Kadarius Toney without the headaches? Sure. Why not? Give it a try.
Kadarius Toney was drafted 7 rounds higher than Brashard.
I know. But like, hey, when we throw you the football, can you make the first guy miss and it be cool and exciting? And like, hey, maybe you could like develop into a better punt returner so that maybe Nico Remigio isn't our default punt returner. Like, I'm just, there's ways for him to improve. There's ways for him to have growth. It's just not what we thought it was gonna be. Because he really didn't develop under Todd Higston, now did he? And he also didn't get the opportunities alongside Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. And now they just literally signed 2 players that are better than him at his position.
That makes sense. I think it's wild that he had 14 carries in that blowout win over the Raiders and then 12 carries the last week of the season. And that made up 26 of his 44 carries. I don't think there's a sample size there. And you
Right,
can have
there
a sample size
isn't.
in practice or whatever. And again,
Right.
if they just went, oops, got the pick wrong, maybe he can go in some gadget role. I definitely can't hear from St. Joe this year like, well, Rashard Smith's really looking comfortable with the slot receiver role because Jalen Royals was looking great for a couple of days in camp last
And
year.
his knee exploded. That's not true. I'm
Right.
joking.
I don't
now.
know. I can see some of the narratives from 3 months away, and I'm girding myself against them for Rashard Smith, I guess.
Hey, young fella. I hear your name is Royals, but you don't play baseball for them. You ready to take that red shirt off?
Well, it's a new regime, Nate. I don't know if they like Jalen Royals or not.
A new wide receivers coach.
How's the new regime feel about Xavier Worthy and Rasheed Rice? What do we
young
think?
fella, stay in your playbook.
Maybe that's why they keep trying to apparently sign a tackle or something because they're like, oh, who knows about the guy we signed last year and the guy we drafted in the first round last year.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Hey, my name is Eric Bieniemy, and you will know where the sidelines are, okay? Under my watch, under my peaceful eye.
That's a good point, Seth. Actually, maybe that's Thursday's subtopic. I'm gonna lose my mind about the tackle thing, and then we can just solve it by saying it's a new administration. And so
It's a new administration. I'm in town.
Bieniemy wasn't here when they drafted Kingsley either. I mean, they might need a guard. Bieniemy wasn't here when they extended Trey Smith. They might need 2 guards.
This is the first team in the history of the league to treat a new offensive coordinator who was a guy who was there for years previously as some kind of sea change.
Because we didn't have anybody else who could fix it. They called me back.
Well, you gotta remember, Seth, it was the old administration that also hired all of those coaches who are now to blame for all of the faults of the team.
It's a new day. In my name is Eric Bieniemy.
Taking this other ear pod out any second.
That's who you were doing an impression of. We'll talk to you on Thursday.
I thought